Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Dear Kevin. So, we're back to talking about my screenplays. This episode, as you've known from the title up above, and if you're just following along in my personal history, is my next screenplay, and the title of this video is Fathers and Sons, my next script. So, in my last screenplay video about myself, I talked about The Empty Cookie, and I said that it was the beginning of Phase 2. I made this Marvel analogy, saying the earlier scripts were Phase 1, and Empty Cookie 4 was Phase 2. Hopefully I have some Marvel fanboys out there, some big Marvel geeks, much like myself, who are going, but what about the Avengers, the one that closed everything up and opened the door? Okay, I have my own Avengers of sorts that ended Phase 1 and also kind of bridged into Phase 2. That would be Fathers and Sons. After finishing Stop, script I wrote my senior year of high school, the last semester of high school, I moved on to the screenplay. And this is a really long, in-depth, multi-character story. There's actually two different stories going on that are interwoven. It's sort of like a novel, thematically related stories. And a lot of flash-forwards in time, flashbacks in time. There's, title cards. Very Woody Allen-esque. I was very deep into Woody Allen at the time I was writing it. And this draft runs at 138 pages. So, I had the idea, and I had all these characters, and I outlined both stories. So it's about two families, Family A and Family B. And I outlined both stories, and I knew in the finished screenplay how, Family A to Family B, and then where, and I knew the whole structure of the script. But I decided to go ahead and write all of Family A's story once. So it's I wrote the opening monologue of Family B, which is what opened the screenplay. Then I jumped over to Family A to do the next scene, and I just kind of got stuck, and I was like, well, I'll just do all of Family A first. And I did that my last semester of high school. And when it was time to jump back to Family B and pick up where I left off, I discovered I couldn't do it. They were too different, which I thought was scary. I was worried I was going to lose the whole thing, and I'd put in so much work into half of a screenplay, but I also figured, well, it's a good thing that I can't jump right into it. That means that these are really different characters, and I'd spent so much time at that point writing screenplays with characters that are just photocopies of myself, my best friends, the girls I was in love with, my teachers, my parents. Not real characters, so it was a good sign, scary but a good sign that I couldn't just jump straight into this other family, this other world. So I put it on hold. Then I, ended high school, moved to Austin, didn't have any friends, and I wrote The Empty Cookie, which is, my beginning of Phase 2. When I finished The Empty Cookie, the dam kind of burst for me for a year or two, and I ended up writing a lot very quickly. And the first thing I did was jump straight back into Fathers and Sons, and I finished up that second story, edited the whole thing, threw it all together. For the longest time, this was my favorite screenplay. It still has a big place in my heart. Empty Cookie is a lot of fun, and I admire it, and I think the dialogue is great. The screenplay I'm going to talk about next time I talk about my scripts, Asinine, is my favorite, because it's the movie that I'd most want to see, I think. It's the one that's the most fun, it's the one that's the most indicative of the sensibilities of the kind of movies I'd like to make. This is the one where my heart lies. In the same way, obviously, okay, last year, for example, 2015, my favorite movie of last year was Star Wars The Force Awakens. Hey look, Star Wars. My favorite movie of last year was Star Wars Force Awakens. The best movie of last year, in my opinion, hands down, was Mad Max. So that's kind of the metaphor I'm going with for my screenplays here. Asinine is my favorite screenplay that I've written. Fathers and Sons is probably the best. So I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. I've already been rambling for a while, I feel like. Another one of those days where I've been up all night doing graveyard shifts. Finally hit my weekend, so, but I wanted to record this video before going to sleep. Excuse any ambient noise you hear, it's a lovely day outside, so I've kept my windows open. Anyway, so, Fathers and Sons, and I'll put it up on the blog, as per usual. Link will be in the description and probably in the annotation somewhere. adolescentconceptions.wordpress.com. Fathers and Sons is about two families that don't meet save for the very end of the screenplay. Spoilers. And obviously the big relationships in each family are the fathers and sons. So it's essentially two families with 3 generations on each side. So you've got a grandfather who's, 50, 60, 70, a father who is, 40s, 50s, or younger in some cases, and, a child who's 15, 16. So on one family, you've got a little boy, he's 6 years old, and he's being raised by his grandfather, who's in his 60s or 70s. And the father is maybe in his late 20s, and he's been put in prison, and the little boy's never met his father. So that's part of one story, is the dynamics of that relationship. A little boy being raised by his grandfather, hoping to one day meet his father, who was in prison. On the other side, you have a teenage boy, 15, 16, his father, who's typical, 40s, and then his father, who's in his 60s. That family is the much more traditional, we're dealing with the teen angst of, I don't understand my son anymore, and I'm 15 now, so my dad's a dick. I had so much fun coming up with the ideas and the sequences in the script, and I think I pulled them all off. Like I said, there are flashbacks, there are flash forwards, there's voiceover moments, I think I used subtitles a time or two, there's a dance sequence out of nowhere, there's a fantasy sequence out of nowhere, there's a dream sequence out of nowhere. I had a lot of fun. I was bending every rule I could find. I was embracing my inner writer and just anything that I thought I wanted to see. Playing with conventions of, a drama, of a family drama, of teen romance, all that good stuff. One of my favorite things I did is that on, family A's side with the little boy and the grandfather is kind of starting this weird little romance with his landlord, who's also an older woman. And they should be completely beyond this shit by now. She's a widower, he's a widower, she's a widow, so they both had long relations before, but they kind of start to realize they have affection for each other, and they're kind of, cute and adorable, and this is, why am I feeling nervous around you? I'm 60 years old. Stop holding my hand. And it's, a very cutesy kind of take on new love. Meanwhile, over here on this story with the 15-year-old boy, he is dating his first high school girlfriend, and they're going through all that, ooh, butterflies in my stomach, and what does it mean? And will I see him after gym class? And I had a lot of fun drawing parallels between, the adolescent first love of high school compared to, a much later in life love that in the same way is just as exciting and new and surprising. Things like that. I had a lot of fun tying it all together. It's got a lot of heart to it, a lot of emotion to it. I don't want to go too in-depth about the plot because it doesn't really have a plot per se, which isn't to say it meanders. There's driving forces on both sides. You want to know why the guy ended up in prison. You want to know if he'll get out. You want to know if him and his son are going to have a good relationship. On this side, you want to know if the father figure is going to repair his relationship with his son. You're going to want to know if the son is actually going to be able to manage his parents and his new girlfriend at the same time. And you also got the patriarchal figure on this side, who's worried about his son, he feels like maybe I've let my son down and now I'm watching him ruin his son. So there are driving points to it, there are character arcs to it, and it all is tied up and resolved, but it doesn't have a standard 3-act structure by any means, and I love that. A few people have read this one. My mother's coworkers were the first ones to read it because it was high school and that's who she wanted to share it with. A few people have cried at this screenplay, which I'm proud of. It's designed to make you cry from time to time. So, yeah, I thought I guess I'll leave it there. Please go read it if you have the time. Like I said, this is a slightly more dense screenplay. There's still a lot of dialogue, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of thematic elements. If you're not used to screenplays, if you're not used to reading them, try Empty Cookie first to just kind of get your feet wet with it. Or just reading a screenplay of a movie you've seen, always good. This one has a little bit more going on, technically speaking, because it's a more complex movie. It's also a longer movie. This is 138 pages, this draft. So, yeah. I can't say enough about it. I could gush about it all day long, so I won't. Like I said, you can find it at the blog, and like I said, I wrote half of it at the end of high school, where I was at my most Kevin Smith fanboyish. Like, my friends and I had kind of had a falling out. It was the end of high school. I didn't want to go to college. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. All I knew was I wanted to make movies. So I was very much in a Dante Randall position. Clerks 2 had just come out like my senior year of high school, so I was very much in this Kevin Smith mode. And writing this screenplay, Woody Allen had become my favorite filmmaker. Writing this screenplay was an attempt to distance myself from the slightly more amateurish efforts that I'd done before and try something broader. And even despite all that, there is a long Batman conversation in the middle of this screenplay. So that's how long I'm going to say about Fathers and Sons. Once again, just like the Empty Cookie vlog, I've been trying to figure out what my Dear Kevin should be for this. Other than like you saved my life, and without you I would be very unhappy and wouldn't have written the screenplay, which is every vlog. So I don't know. It's tough to say because at this point we're talking about more my personal life. So it was not a happy time when I was writing these screenplays. I was very alone. So I guess I'll just do a more emotional, personal Dear Kevin this time, beyond like, hey, I'm glad you made Clerks, or please hire me. So, excuse the feels. If it gets a little bit too real for you, feel free to, you know, close the video. Dear Kevin, I've heard you talk about how Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and Dogma came from a place where you were living with your parents after high school, and you were doing nothing but writing, and that's where those fucking movies came from. They came from your room and the freedom you had to write those screenplays, and you know, you were being judged all the time by your family members, by coworkers, by relatives, by whoever, that why don't you go out there and start your life? And you're taking community college courses that don't go anywhere, and what you were really doing was creating a foundation for the rest of your life. And I hope that I was doing the same thing. I haven't made it yet. I haven't made Clerks. I haven't had, you know, the Weinsteins buy my first film. I haven't done anything really beyond just writing some screenplays and starting a YouTube channel. But I hope that the work I put in during those years matters, and isn't just something that, you know, I can look back on one day and say, look at these screenplays I wrote that no one has read. Hopefully the time I put in after high school, where I didn't really have friends and I wasn't going to college, and all I did was live with my mother at home and sit in my room and type on a laptop, I really hope that it matters. Your films, of course, but like in particular this part of your journey, is a big inspiration to me, because it says that if you love something, that's what you should focus on. That's what you should train yourself to get good at. Hey, I'm back. My camera died in the middle of my emotional Dear Kevin letter. I didn't want to leave it hanging like that. It's been like an hour since my camera died. I'm even more loopy than I was, you know, a second ago. Still haven't slept. Cleaned the apartment up a bit, though. What was I saying? Dear Kevin, sadness, you in your room writing. Yeah, I was gonna say, it hasn't happened for me, but I hope all that work I put into my years after high school, writing alone in a room, putting effort into a craft, putting effort into, you know, creating a world for myself, I hope it pays off. And I gotta say, like, of course your movies are inspiration to me. Of course the characters are inspiring. The themes of the stories you tell are inspiring, but the most inspiring part of you, for me, is that part of your story, the part after high school where you just dove into the thing you loved. That's what you wanted to do. You threw it all away with reckless abandon, and you said, I'm gonna make movies. And if I had the guts, I'd go charge, you know, 27 grand to my credit cards and go make my movie. And I don't have that guts right now. So it's inspiring what you did. And that script, Fathers and Sons, my favorite thing I've written, the best thing I've written, it only exists because I was sort of following in your footsteps, taking your example of trying to be happy and trying to work on the thing that mattered to me most at the time, which was my writing. You know, I since went to film school, and now I have a real job at a convenience store, which was a coincidence, by the way. I didn't get a convenience store gig because I'm a Kevin Smith fan. It was right down the road from my apartment when I moved in. Anyway, thank you, Kevin Smith, as always. Thank you guys for watching. Sincerely, George. Sorry about the goofy, like, I know there was like a weird cut and then I changed shirts. Sorry, like I said, my camera died and I didn't want to leave it hanging on this weird, like, I'm tired and sad. So, emotional videos, emotional. It was a rough time after high school, and writing is what really, you know, helped me not figure out, I knew what I wanted to do, but writing that screenplay, writing those scripts, which I'll continue to talk about in the next videos, made me a real adult, made me realize that what I'm doing isn't a hobby, that it's a skill, that it's, there's a bit of, that I actually have some talent at this, that I maybe should be doing this. So, knowing that Kevin went through a similar thing after high school has been and shall always be inspiring for me. And with any luck, you guys are reading my scripts and sharing them with your friends or your neighbors or perfect strangers in the street. I don't care what you're doing with them, as long as, you know, they're out there. And with any luck, maybe someday I'll get to breathe the rarefied air of a filmmaker, a professional filmmaker, a professional storyteller who gets to share what is important with the world. Hopefully you guys are digging it. Maybe you read my scripts, you're like, they fucking suck, quit, go back to the convenience store job. But if anything I'm saying appeals to you at all, if you agree with my worldview, if you like the stories I'm telling and you like my point of view, I couldn't be happier. Like, that's the whole idea, is I want to I want to try and share something of myself, and I want to try and show you what I think of the world. And wow, this is getting way the fuck off track from like that screenplay I was talking about earlier. Like I said, I need a nap. I'm a writer, and I'm tired, and this has been a very strange episode of Dear Kevin, and I'll see you next time. Sorry for the weird editing. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like it, share if you like it. Find me on Twitter at George Efta or at final_frames. And of course, the blog, as always, is at adolescentconceptions.wordpress.com. I guess that's it. Firefly shirt. Bye.